My name is Patty Bernard. I'm a member of the Nevada Women's History Project. Today is Thursday, the 6th of September, 2018. We are interviewing my sister-in-law, Carolyn Bernard. My association with Carolyn goes back many years as I watched her civic involvement grow from her college years to present. This interview is thanks to the generosity of the Roxie and Azad Joseph Foundation. Thank you so much for interviewing with us, Carolyn. It's a real pleasure to be talking with you. Can you talk a little bit about your formative years, your family, where you went up, grew up, your schooling? I know that you're from a very, very old Nevada family.
Certainly, Patty, I would be happy to. Prior to that, I would like to thank you very much for inviting me here today. I feel it's an honor to be put into a little piece of your group like this. You ladies are doing wonderful things in the community, and I know you'll keep up the good work. My family, my growing up years. I was born in Yerington. Without a doctor. Therefore, my father had to work fast, and I came with a cord wrapped around my neck, and so he had to really work fast. All went well. I was the third of 3 children. Have an older brother, Frank, older sister, Jacqueline. I'm a 4th generation Nevadan. My family, they were pioneers in the Yerington area, Pine Grove specifically. The Wilson family, my great-grandmother was the first white woman in the entire area of Mason Valley. They came to mine gold, and in doing so, they used my grandmother and a buckboard wagon to take the gold to Carson City. They felt that was much safer, and the Indians would not bother her, whereby they may a man. And she succeeded. I went to Yerington schools. Yerington High School was very active, always. Enjoyed being on committees from an early age, enjoyed holding offices, was treasurer of the student body. I went on to the University of Nevada and became a Pi Phi, was president of the pledge class. Many wonderful years, wonderful friends came from the university that I still know and am active with today. I'm very grateful for those years. Not everybody is able to receive a college education. It was not easy for my parents. My mother was a school teacher, and her second year into teaching school and my 2nd grade, they found that my father was a man who had contacted and had tuberculosis. This was an extreme blow to the entire family. He had 5 brothers, 1 sister. They lived on a ranch near Pine Grove, and because of his illness, he immediately had to give up his work on the ranch in law enforcement, and my mother became a very hard-working teacher, and at night sold life insurance in order for us 3 children to be able to go on to school. So I've always been very grateful for my education. And I was active in college. Following college, I was married. I have been married for 59 years to the same man. Have 2 children, 6 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren. These people I consider the highlight of my life and the joy of my life. I was fortunate enough to be able to stay at home until my children were at least in 6th grade. My youngest child was in 6th grade when I started getting into activities. And probably, aside from being the Girl Scout teacher and PTA president and all those things you do as a mother, my first real job outside the home was I volunteered for my uncle's run on a quest for state controller to run his part in the North. And that was fascinating. I'd always worked in politics and enjoyed the job because I was meeting people all the time, being able to socialize with people, and considered a very good cause. And I went on from there, small little jobs that came along. I did a fair amount of modeling for different organizations, for fundraisers, and enjoyed doing that very much. I eventually decided that I should settle into one organization, and Assistance League of Reno Sparks was coming into Reno. And I became a charter member of this organization, which took the next 25 years of my life. Patty, I think before I get into the Assistance League, I would like to step back and perhaps Pine Grove was a long time ago, and Pine Grove no longer exists. It is probably 30 miles outside of south of Yerington, and this family that mined in Pine Grove was the David Wilson family. My uncle that I referred to in running for state controller was Wilson McGowan. And along with the name Wilson, there's a canyon between Yerington and Smith Valley. And that canyon was named after the Wilson family because naturally they were a very active family in the surrounding area for many, many years. Many years to follow when the Wilsons had their children, and they married out, and their families began to farm in the Mason Valley area. So it's been a long time, a lot of family and a lot of activity. And then too, I would like to show you a couple of graduation pictures. My graduation picture from high school, 1956, Yerington High. And then I have a graduation picture from UNR, which happens to be with my daughter. And the reason for this is we both graduated at the same time. I went to school for 3 years and decided that I was going to marry early. I could teach with 3 years on a Nevada contract, and my husband was going to school, and I thought I could help by going to school and teaching at that time. So I found, following that, every 5 years I would have to pick up so many credits in order to get my degree. And I did that as life went along. I got up to about 5 credits short and decided once I do this, as all teachers know, we have to continually go back for more education. I was really just buying into a lot more education than I had time for at that point in my life. Therefore, I sat back from school. When my daughter went up to UNR, she decided she wanted to graduate with me. I didn't think that was a very good idea. This was her day, and after a lot of coercing, I graduated with her.
Carolyn, I'd like you to talk a little bit about your mother and her education, because I remember I graduated with my bachelor's the year that your mother graduated with her bachelor. And I know that she went to school in the 1930s, so it took her 30 years to graduate with a bachelor's degree. Can you fill in maybe some of the missing information?
Yes, Patty, I would be happy to. My mother went to UNR at age 16.
And your mother was who?
Lucille McGowan, and she chose to, she finished high school early and chose to go to UNR early. And when she was at UNR, she decided to take what at that time they called a normal certificate from the state of Nevada for teaching that you could get with 2 years of college. She did this and then set out into the world of becoming a school teacher. Her first year in Lovelock, Nevada, then Smith Valley, where she met my father and they were married. And she had to go back to school teaching when my father became ill. And so thank goodness for that school teaching degree. I know many women that it has been a lifesaver for. But she was teaching with a normal degree, 2 years, so naturally her pay was not near as much as that as if she had graduated. And it took her 30 years to get her graduate degree. She was determined and also certainly wanted more money, and the more credits she had, the more money she received for her teaching. She was a highly sought after teacher in Yerington. She taught first grade. She had a full room long before the start of school on September 1st. She was well known for being able to teach children how to read, write, and do math. So there you have it. I mean, I guess I followed in my mother's footsteps.
Carolyn, you were talking about the Assistance League coming to Reno. And how did you get involved with the Assistance League?
I was asked to be a charter member, and we worked some time prior to setting up the charter, putting the organization together, and when it was time to move on it, we broke out in Reno and invited many people to come. We ended up with 75, 80 people being very, very interested. And once they came, they met, they found out some of what we would be doing, which our main interest was in serving the community and meeting the needs of the community. Now, there are different needs in every community. And after our research, we found that our choice of needs was either with senior citizens and or children. And because we didn't have any money to work on at that time, we had to make a choice. And in making the choice, we went to senior citizens. With that, we lost some of our members because we probably were divided pretty much down the middle on seniors or children. So we started with children, and we started with seniors, and the first thing we did was provide them with a shop in which they could make items of their choice that they could sell from the shop so that they could have an income. And we found that income not only feeds people and gives them a house to live in and puts clothes on their back, but every individual has a purpose in life and they want to be needed. And we found their need to be needed was every bit as great as providing them with money to live off of. So it was an extremely rewarding project.
Was this a problem as far as when you surveyed the seniors, a lack of income in a large group of seniors?
Absolutely. It was an enormous problem. It's probably an enormous problem everywhere. And unfortunately, as we move along, it's going to become a greater problem because today fewer people, you know, are going to have a retirement that they can live off of. So, yes, it is a problem, a great problem. And as I say, it's a great problem everywhere. We went from seniors into children and into what they call Operation School Bell. And in Operation School Bell, we take children from probably mostly from at high-risk schools where their income level is very low and they are in bad need of clothing. And we put at least $100 of clothing on the back of each child. At this point, we are doing around 3,000 children a year. And we slowly have moved beyond the 6th grade. And I'm sure with funds, they will continue to move into the higher grades.
And how is that facilitated in the schools?
We do not choose the children. The schools work hand in hand with us. They choose the children. And it used to be that they came to our office and they were closed out of our office. We now work with Walmart. They come to Walmart with their parent, which is a much better idea because the parent is getting in to the action with the child, which does not always happen. Before I leave the Assistance League, I'd like to tell you that today, after many years, they have 12 projects that they work within the community. And they have formed an auxiliary. I feel very proud of the auxiliary. I was in charge of that when I was president, and it was set up for working women because there were a lot of women that wanted to join the Assistance League and they didn't have the time. So we started an auxiliary for them. And the auxiliary has been a tremendous help to the chapter and helped them because, as I've told you, they do all the work in these. The only paid person they have is the man doing the taxes. Our attorney is pro bonus. So they need to raise a lot of money, and they do that also. They're quite a group of women. They have made a tremendous difference within our city. And the women can be very, very proud of themselves. They work very, very hard. They come from a national organization, and I became involved with national probably about 20 years into Assistance League. I was asked to join national so that I could represent them and go out into different states to get more chapters, to become more members, to become chapters, to work within their cities to help the community with their needs. And at this point, there are 120 chapters across the United States. So they're a driving force, and they all work very, very hard. None of them have paid help.
Is there a criteria for a community applying for Assistance League?
Not necessarily, no. You're not just handed a charter. You work probably 3 or 4 years becoming a chapter so that the national organization is sure that you can make it, because you're dealing with money that comes from community individuals, community foundations, and the national organization wants to know positively that you will be able to support the cause that you have chosen within that community. They don't want you coming into a community and failing.
Thank you. And your next step was what?
My next step, My next step, I suppose, was into the Robert Z. Hawkins Foundation. And I have been there for 28 years now. Seems like yesterday. I was very fortunate to have been asked to serve on the Hawkins Foundation. I was chosen from a group of other ladies. I happen to know Kay Hawkins, who was the wife of Robert Z. Hawkins, and she wanted me on the foundation. And she probably carried a lot of weight, because here I am today. And at this point, after all those many years, I've become their chairman and enjoy my work extremely. I'm oftentimes asked to be a panelist within the city of Reno on foundation work, and which is interesting, because I think that it's important, no matter what you're doing in the community, to give back to the community in whatever form you can. And we're not out there holding on to our money. We're out there to give people our money to make their organizations, their hospitals, their schools, whatever, a better place for the communities in which they live. Now, the Hawkins Foundation gives money just to northern Nevada, and a lot of our money goes to UNR. They have long been a love of ours, and we started probably with the what was the old library in 1960, and giving them money, and since have given them several $100,000 to support their different colleges on campus. We are a big supporter of Truckee Meadows Community College, of the hospitals within Reno. We're a big supporter of the food pantries. We built the Robert Z. Hawkins Amphitheater, and we're extremely proud of the amphitheater. It provides a venue for little groups to go out and perform, and it's not so terribly out of sight price-wise that most are able to do this. I want to mention, in talking about the amphitheater, we are at the Bartley Ranch, and they were kind enough to give us the mountainside to build the amphitheater on. And we're not in the business of running amphitheaters or anything else. We simply give money away. And therefore, after the amphitheater was built, we gave it to Washoe County. Now, Washoe County has its problems like everybody else financially. And so we continue to support the amphitheater very heavily. With the sound system, there are always costs, there are always needs out there. And we are very fortunate to be able to help them. Robert Z. Hawkins came to Reno from Colorado. We were very, very fortunate to have the Hawkins family in Reno. He was a longtime Reno attorney, very, very well-known attorney, and this is where his money came from. And when he was ill and realized he was going to die, he set up a trust in order for this money to be set aside to go into for in perpetuity, so that there would always be money there in order to give back to the community. At this time, we started with $5 million. Today we have $25 million. And the $25 million provides us the funds of $1 million a year to give back to the community.
Picture.
I have here a picture of Robert Z. Hawkins. The picture is on our pamphlet that we send to individuals that request money, want to know how to go about getting money, how to get funds from us, and the pamphlet is very, very good. It has specific instructions on what to do, how to do it, when to do it, when we meet and is very easy to follow. So anyone interested, all they have to do is call the office and we're happy to send them a copy of that. As well as the Robert Z. Hawkins Foundation that I chair, I'm now vice chairman of the Estelle J. Kelsey Foundation. And this foundation, my husband chairs, and upon his death, we became good friends with his wife, took care of her. She did not have any family whatsoever. She had come out from the East Coast. And when she died, she chose to leave it to us to put into a foundation. And so the foundation is run very closely to the same as the Hawkins Foundation. You have to have a 501c3 to request funds. We give away $1 million a year, and basically our money stays in northern Nevada. The money from both foundations stay in the northern part of the state.
Are we talking northern Reno, Washoe County, Douglas County,
Elko,
you go as far as Lyon and
Ely,
into central Nevada.
Lake Tahoe, Northern California in Lake Tahoe, Truckee, Susanville, the surrounding area. So I've been very fortunate. I've been able to serve on both sides of the table. One side actually is not any easier than the other side. Having spent 25 years with the Assistance League, knocking on doors, writing letters for money, was not easy. But when you have a good cause, it gives you the energy that it takes to go out and do these things within the community to get the money you need to help the community.
That's just exactly what I was going to ask you, Carolyn. What motivates you to keep you going?
What motivates me to keep me going? Each one of us today, we are where we are because of those that came before us. And there have been a lot of people before us that have done a lot of things that have given us what we have. You can take the university, as simple as that is. And Patty, you and I both, having been at the university quite a few years ago, we see how it's grown. And that growth has come only through givers, people that have been willing to give, foundations that have been willing to give. Somebody has to care. Somebody has to have a commitment. And I guess I commit fairly easily.
Did you have role models or mentors growing up?
I think probably, yes, I did. Certainly we all do. Probably many that we don't even realize until later years as we move along. But basically it was my mother, who was such a hard-working woman, and not only for taking care of her own family, she too realized that she was in a community that she was very lucky to be in, and she gave back to the community. And my father, my father was a mentor through his illness. Because of his illness, I learned ever so many things, and tuberculosis was a dreaded, dreaded disease. It was new. I found out much later in life. I really wasn't wanted at my friend's house. My friends didn't want to come to my house because of the fear of contacting tuberculosis. And because of that, something inside you takes over, that you move on and you do those things that you have to do to go forward, but in that process, there are all these people alongside you that need help, and they're stopping along the way to help those people. My father, with his tuberculosis, an interesting note here. When I was in 7th grade, he was going to die. He had lost weight. He was down to 70 pounds. And the doctors told my mother that he was not long for this world, that within months they expected him to go. They had been very unsuccessful in being able to help him. And there was a new drug out, fairly new, and they wanted to try it on him. And would she be willing to do that? And she said, certainly, if that drug had any possibility of helping somebody else, she would be most happy to have them use it on him. And the drug was used on him. 2 years later, he was operated on. The lung was removed, the tuberculosis gone, and the drug happened to be penicillin. Interesting note.
So you did face a little bit of discrimination simply because of the contact with someone with tuberculosis.
How interesting, Patty. That word has never been used, and yes, I would have to say so, but not realizing it as a child.
That's very interesting. Would you call that a transformative experience that has been a major part of your life?
Certainly, my father was a transformative moment in my life.
And that would be because?
Because it changed my life. It changed my life in many directions, no doubt. And oddly enough, I was young enough I did not realize it at the time. And then truthfully, I think my life was so full that I never lived that part of my life. I never let that part of my life send me in any direction. I've always been a believer in that cup, if it's half full or half empty. And mine has always been half full. I think that's the only way to live your life.
Everyone has had failures and successes. What kinds of experiences in both areas have you met? Let's start with successes.
The successes. Probably my biggest successes have been my 2 children. I've been very, very fortunate with them. And I know there, but for the sake of God go I, because we didn't raise them any differently than anybody else. They were given a lot of love and a lot of time, but a lot was respected of them. They were taught at an early age to obey the law, to respect others, and they did that. There just weren't a lot of questions out of them. They did as they had to do. And so certainly I feel they, because of what they have gone on to do within their own lives, have been my largest success and my most important success.
And challenges.
Challenges, enough hours in the day. There are always challenges, and I think probably for somebody like myself, I'm a risk taker. And I believe you have to take risks to enjoy your life, to keep your life vibrant. And if you don't take these risks, you just kind of move along day to day to day. Life doesn't get done that way. You know, things need to happen. Things you need to take care of things. There are things to be done that were done for you. that being taking care of the community. And I'm so thankful that I have been able, that I've been in situations where I've been able to serve my community.
So we're getting towards the end of this, Carolyn. How would you like to be remembered outside of the importance to your family, which obviously is of a prime importance, but what would you like people to remember about you when you're not around?
That I was a committed person. I was a person of my word. If I told you I would do something, I would do it. I would do it as well as I could do it. It wasn't just a passing fancy for me. I've given a lot of time via the foundation by virtue of helping people better apply for their funds in order to help the community. That's allowed me to help the community in helping other people reach that goal.
And a last question. We are Nevada Women's History Project, and of course we are always concerned with young people, both male and female, but do you have any advice for a young woman starting out on a career or a family?
Yes, if you have an interest, go for it. Nothing gets done if you sit back and wait for somebody else. If you have a desire, if you have an interest, go for it. If you fail, try again. There's no danger, there's no hurt in failing. You learn from your failures.
Thank you very much for the time that you took out of your busy day.
And I thank you very much.